That's what you want to think about in your Facebook communities is like, how do I want them to feel? You want them to feel like this is bigger than them, that it's more important than them, that this isn't bigger than you as the host, right? Like this is a movement. Like if you can kind of treat your business mission like a movement, like you will naturally build community. And that's what makes marketing easy because then they advocate for you.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 213 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. If the two words Facebook group make your hair stand on end, or maybe you get a little bit of the eye roll situation going on, like, come on, Facebook groups, this is the episode for you because now more than ever, it is really hard for people to figure out how to reach new audiences outside of paid advertising. It has become a challenge. Social media is louder. It can be a little bit more negative. People are starting to leave it. So what do you do with that? Chances are, if you listen to the amazing Elizabeth Henson, you create a group and you nurture that group and you teach them your expertise and watch a community grow. I loved today's conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And if you do roll your eyes when someone says Facebook group, I want you to hang on to your hats and glasses for a hot second. And I want you to dive in and really listen to what Elizabeth shares here, because it is so common sense. It is so simple. And her guarantee is that in under an hour a week, you can grow a community that sells for you, that loves to hear about your offers, and that makes you feel great to participate in. Elizabeth Henson is the owner of Elizabeth Henson INC. She's the founder of the Messy Success podcast, which yours truly has been on. It is so much fun. And the Community Growth Lab. Elizabeth has become the go-to expert in community-based marketing and leadership. She helps 6- and 7-figure companies become pros at building and maintaining large communities that turn into marketing machines. Elizabeth's signature system for building, nurturing, monetizing communities has changed the landscape of digital marketing. She gets business out of the content generating hamster wheel and into relationships that leverage their authority. Elizabeth is also a BBD Plus coach and a sales pro for James Wedmore. All right, you guys, if you have been trying to reach new audiences, if you know it is time for you to start building that community that, if we're honest, we've all been missing for quite some time now, you want to pop in those earphones because we're going to get to it. Elizabeth, are you ready to rock the girlfriends today? I am so excited. Welcome to the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm like, we were talking about stuff before. I'm like, nothing good. Wait till we push record.
We're going to have so much fun. So I've introduced you to the audience. They know who you are at this point, but this is one of my favorite questions because I know as women, there's so much that we can be involved in, and there's so many different ways we can take our businesses or our lives. I'm going to ask you, amazing community genius that you are, why is this what you do? Out of all the things on the planet, why is this what Elizabeth does?
Oh my gosh. I will try to make this like the condensed version, but I have always kind of been a little bit of a career hopper, just like to try new things. I like to get really good at stuff and then go try something different. So my entrepreneurial journey started as a wedding photographer, and I got really good, really fast, grew my business to 6 figures and wanted to teach other women how to start their businesses. And I realized very quickly that I did not love teaching them how to use their camera. But I loved that moment when they realized, wait, I can do what I love and make a living doing it. Right. Yeah. To me, I was like, this is my life's purpose, but I don't know how to do that. Right. What do I call myself? Like a show people what's possible person. So then I started dabbling in business coaching because that's kind of what I felt like it was.
Yeah.
But as you know, to be just a generic business coach and stand out is kind of difficult. And it's kind of just this weird market where people don't trust you. And I knew I needed to be a little bit more specific, in my coaching. So I started asking people, my students, and asking my community, what am I good at? What do you see to be my superpower? And it was community and networking. So then I tried to be this community and networking specialist. Right? And leadership. I'm obsessed with leadership. But nobody rolls out of bed in the morning saying, I need community and leadership. Right? They just don't do that. So I'm still I know what I'm good at. I know how I want to help people, but like, what are they rolling out of the bed saying they need? And one morning, I just realized when I saw Facebook and someone's like, nobody's responding to my post, nobody's engaged. And I was like, oh, that's community and that's leadership.
Oh, wow.
But like, I can package it up now because everybody's complaining about their Facebook groups.
It's so true.
Yes.
So your recognition that what you were community and leadership's not going to land,
right,
happened at the same time when people were like, "Oh my God, my Facebook group."
Yes.
So that just sort of came together. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of clicked,
Amazing.
and then I realized, okay, this is my in. Like, my life's purpose isn't to show someone how to optimize their Facebook group, but it's my in and giving them that quick win. And then they're like, ooh, I like how she teaches and coaches. Like, I just want more. Right. And it really was just my in into like building out my freebie and audience building and getting my methodology around community building kind of out there. And I'm very transparent about it too. I'm like, I'm going to give you some tools for your Facebook group, but like, if your way of being and your leadership sucks, like nobody's going to come. Right. Like, you can do all the tools in the world, but if your personality sucks, sorry for your luck.
Sorry, but it's true. Come on. I mean, I call that integrity, which is, it's like you can't like show up sometimes and be great and think people are going to want to follow what you're saying. Like, it's an all the time game. And so, and that's that, you know, that's what I consider a sucky personality, or sometimes I will call it pigeon management. Like, when they come in, they shit all over everything and then they leave. Right. It's like, that's being like a pigeon person or a pigeon personality. It's not fun. Nobody wants to be around that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really think, like, if anybody out there is trying to figure out like what their niche is or like how to make money doing what they love, it's like, okay, I know my life's purpose is to help people, specifically women, do what they love and make a living doing it. I know I am personally really great at building community and leadership skills. So my money maker is kind of like one tier below that. That's like, okay, how do I help people build community and build their leadership skills to make money? Right. So it all kind of ties into this like community-based marketing, which if you're learning from me is really kind of in your way of being and showing up and taking action and doing all the things.
I love it. That must have been cool. Were you scared at all to kind of own that space? Did that feel scary, or did it feel like totally natural?
Unfortunately, I feel like pivoting is my natural state.
Been there.
And staying the same. Like, I have said to myself 100 times, Liz, if you would have stuck with that offer, I had this really cool mastermind for photographers called Find Your Five. That was really successful. I launched it 3 times. And I was like, if you would have just stuck with that, you would be a millionaire by now. Because like, if you can get one good offer and build the sales machine for that one offer, like, that's where it's at. But like, I am a manifesting generator, so I get bored really quickly. And I'm like, next. So unfortunately, pivoting is my normal.
Yeah, no, that was a laugh. That was a giggle of recognition from yours truly over here. I think it's that, one, we want to honor that. So let's start with that. Like, if that's how we operate, we want to honor that. Like, come on, let's not make that wrong ever.
No shaming.
No, never. And it's that stick-to-itiveness, also called grit, I guess, is a more articulate way to say it, right? Yeah. But I think that is one of the hardest parts of business, at least for me, because I love creating. Right. It's like, this is so, and that's what I'm hearing from you too, is like, oh my God, let me solve that problem for people. Oh, and that I want to solve that problem for people. And then it gets hard to be known for a thing.
Yes.
Because you help a bunch of people do a bunch of things. Yes. So I think it took, I'm going to put words in your mouth a tad, or I'm going to acknowledge you rather and say, I think it took a lot of courage for you to be like, this is the vehicle, because I love it so much, for me to get in and then I can solve all the problems. And I think people miss that in business a lot, right? It's like, no, you can be known for one thing and still help people with a lot of things.
Yes. Like, your why and your offers are separate. And, I've walked away from money a lot of times because it wasn't my calling. Like, just that like inner knowing of like, oh, this was really good and it helped me learn some things, but like, it's not the finish line, and just keep going. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And I think that is, for me, that's the biggest challenge in business.
Yeah. And that
That's
is
my biggest
abundance too, right? To be able to
Yeah.
say like, this isn't really where I want to be generating my money. So
Yes.
having that knowing, that confidence of like, but I can still generate money all these different ways too. Right. And not just like, oh, I got to do it here because the money's easy. Oh my God,
Yes.
I'd be so miserable.
Right. And you got to trust yourself. Not only do you trust abundance, that's real, that there's more out there, but you trust yourself to actually get it done and to
Yes.
cause it to happen too. I totally hear that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I just want to follow up on something you said earlier, that you really love leadership. What is it that you love? Like, I think we all like to be led by great people. I know I really love to lead, but like, I think that's a unique thing. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, I love leadership the way that you did when you started talking. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, same thing. I love to be led. And I think that's what made me fall in love with leadership was, the leaders in my life that have been so impactful and saying, oh, I want to be that for other people. And like, I think people think of leadership and they think of like the line leader or the team captain on the team, on the field hockey team or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's more than that. It's like you spot a great leader when you feel important in their presence. And like, that's just what I want to be the best at. Like, I just want to be the best at making other people feel seen, heard, and important.
Oh my God.
It's so cheesy.
No, I'm like speechless. That is so gorgeous to have when someone is in your presence and they feel important. I've never heard that before. And I love it. We talk a lot, in my business about the basic human needs are to be seen, to be heard, and to feel valued.
Yeah.
But I never thought of leadership as having someone feel important in your presence. Yes. Oh my God. I love that so much. So that's the sign of a great leader, is someone who has you feel important in their presence.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that quote that we've all seen, like, leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I just want to help everybody be the best version of themselves. And, introverts can be leaders. You don't have to have a big following to be a leader. Like, I love to talk about the difference in a leader and an influencer. Like, an influencer can just like sell stuff because they have a big audience. Like they can be an affiliate for Target or whatever and make a lot of money. That's an influencer. But like a leader is going to create a space where someone feels important, even if it's just one person.
Oh, that's so great. Well, now I see why you love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is making sense to me now.
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, thanks for making me feel like somewhat normal. I'm always like, oh God, here comes the dorky side. Here we go.
Oh, I think that's the beautiful side. I think that is so cool. And I don't like, I think how we make other people feel is so important. It's the old quote, right? People will rarely remember what you do, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And we've all experienced that.
Yes.
Right. I would say, like, you go to a party and somebody says all the right words and they're nicey nice, but they walk away and you're like, did I just get slimed? Like, you don't even know, like, they said the right things, but you're like, ew, what just happened? Like, that's how they left you feeling. And you remember it, right? You're like, ew, I don't.
It's not even like words. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. Yeah.
It's a connection. Yeah. That's so neat. Well, that brings us to then community. So out of all this being the whole world, right? All of the world of community, it was Facebook groups that were, quote unquote, driving people crazy. What happened and what did you do to solve that problem for people?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I just made it really easy. Like, if you pair your Facebook group with an email newsletter, you can actually have this marketing system that takes less than an hour a week. And like, I know that sounds like a really awesome sales pitch, and it totally is. But at the same time, it really is that easy because, on Instagram, it's like we have to create and produce and brand and curate. Whereas
Constantly.
like in a community, whether it's a Facebook group or whether it's Mighty Networks, doesn't matter. But in a community, you just have to ask a question, like one sentence, right? 80% of your content can be one line or less. And you can use Facebook's big, ugly text boxes. You have all the permission to like not brand things and not make things pretty, because rather than a post about your life story, like I was telling you something about being a college athlete and I'm telling this story, I would go into the Facebook group and just say, hey, who here played a college sport? ? And you're starting conversations versus like kind of being on a stage. So it's a different way of thinking, but it really is so simple. And people make it, I don't want a Facebook group because it's so much more work. I'm like, so it's more work than logging into Canva, creating a carousel that takes you like an hour long, that you got to create the content, you got to make it pretty. Then you got to actually download it and then go back to your phone and upload it. You're telling me that a 1-sentence question is more work than that.
Preach on it, sister. That's amazing. So I have a genuine question for you because I have to be so honest. So yeah, I recently released a podcast episode where I told on myself that social media broke my heart. It shattered me. And I didn't realize that sounds so dramatic. Oh my God, I'm so dramatic. But it really felt that way. Like I remember when Facebook launched and I was still in corporate and my job was to be a product manager and study how Facebook could get integrated with business. So I was going to the F8 conferences, hanging out with the guys in the hoodies, like doing all that stuff. And I loved it. And then I found like my best friend from like elementary school who lived across the street from me. We got to reconnect and I found out she was only living an hour away from me, like 2,000 miles away from where we grew up, like all this cool stuff. And I could get connected and the jokes were freaking hilarious. Like I loved it. And then it turned into nasty and it turned into ugly and it broke my heart and I stopped playing. Like I legit ran away. I was like, there's like a Sarah-shaped hole in the wall in Facebook. Like I was like, I'm out. I can't be in here anymore. Right. And I didn't delete my account or anything, but it was really hard for me. Yeah. Have you seen that trend with other people or are Facebook groups alive and well? And you're finding that to be a really healthy, beautiful community for people?
Yeah. I mean, I think most business owners, especially, are really only on Facebook in their groups. Like, I don't really spend time scrolling on Facebook. Like I get on, I check my messages and I check my groups. I don't see any of the negative energy because I'm just not entertaining it. And Facebook, just like Instagram, will entertain your algorithm.
Yes.
So Instagram, occasionally I do scroll a lot of running videos and a lot of leadership videos, and it's quite boring, but for me, it's my life. So that's what it shows me. Like, it doesn't show me politics. It doesn't show me like things that I don't want to see, because it really does play in your favor as long as you don't allow yourself to get sucked into those rabbit holes.
Yeah. I think that is the key, right? Is that it is AI is taking over humanity. This is happening and that's what the algorithm is, but it doesn't know if things are healthy for you or not. It has no idea. It just knows what you engage in.
It just wants you to engage. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as we're engaging in the things that make us happy and use that discipline to stay in that happier realm, or the running and the leadership. Yeah. That will support that a little bit more. Okay. So Facebook groups are alive and well. You're finding that the people in them are still engaging and still having fun.
Yeah. I mean, it worked 10 years ago and it still works today. Like, that's what's kind of cool about online communities, is like, they're kind of timeless, like Facebook groups, like people will say, oh, they're trending or they're dead. And I'm like, they were kind of always here and they're kind of always still here.
I love like actually, let's talk about the truth. Okay. Yeah. So they're out there, they're having fun. And then you say, I know one of the things that you really help people understand is that community, asking those questions, being with people, that makes marketing really easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that work? Is it just a relationship building?
Yes. And you're casting your vision, right? So the most forgotten marketing strategy in my book is like to cast your vision and your why and your message like every single week, right? So every single week in my group, and this is what I help my students do too, I post or I put it in my newsletter or I go live and I'm just like, hey guys, if you're new here, I'm Elizabeth and I help people grow and scale Facebook communities so that marketing is easy. And I want this to be a group that you guys can come and just get everything you need to know about groups and grab what you need and then go off in the world and do your thing. And I have like 45 different ways of saying that.
Right.
But I have to constantly remind them of like why this group is kind of awesome and why they should hang out there. People will start a group and they'll do that in the beginning. And then they're like, oh God, I don't know what to post. Like, how's the weather? Where are you located? What's going on? And I'm like, you could just remind them of why this group is here and like kind of let them, do their thing.
That's amazing. And the simplicity of that, right? It's almost like if you were at a networking event, you'd be like, how's the weather? Where are you from? How are your kids? What's going on? Maybe, but not for very long, right? Before you're like, what are you doing here? What's going on for you? What had you show up tonight? Like those sorts of questions, like be a person.
Yeah. And I try to think about like really big examples. And I'm like, Martin Luther King, that's all he did was cast a vision. He was like such a great leader and movement maker and vision caster. I'm like, That's all he did. That's all he did is cast his visions. And then the people, the community followed. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, even in business, like, what's your mission? Like when people walk into a room, say you're hosting an event, like, how do you want them to feel? Right. Like, that's what you want to think about in your Facebook communities is like, how do I want them to feel? You want them to feel like this is bigger than them, that it's more important than them, that this isn't bigger than you as the host, right? Like, this is a movement. Like, if you can kind of treat your business mission like a movement, like, you will naturally build community. And that's what makes marketing easy, because then they advocate for you, right? Like, they talk about you, they tell people about you, just like, your student introduced us. Like, that's community. And that's why marketing is easy, because you kind of don't have to do it if your community is doing it for you. There's a trick there.
Yeah, no, it's like, I'm thinking of like all the times I always say sales is easy. You do it all the time. You just don't notice, right? Like, really, how many times have you recommended a book or a movie or a show, right? That's selling. But I think you're saying the same thing is like, if that relationship is there and you're casting a vision, that other people want to pick up the movement and help carry it further down the line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that so much. And at the time of this recording, there's some current events that are troubling. How do you like to navigate that? Or how do you recommend that people navigate these tougher moments inside of groups? Or does it come up? Does it not come up? What have you found around things like that? Because I know people want to know how to handle that.
Yeah. I mean, I actually learned a lot from you and how you show up in that. And like, hey, we can't really just pretend that it's not happening. Like, we have to acknowledge it. And this is the time to put more money in women's hands, like exactly what you said. And, for me, I just show up and I say, like, what kind of questions do you have? Or are you having trouble leading your community through this? If you feel like you need to take space to grieve, absolutely. But I don't think that we as a society need to be encouraged to like close down our business or, like, not do the things that we're normally doing because, now we're insensitive. It's like, no, like, this is more important than ever that we continue to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of dance the line of like, I'm not really going to acknowledge it, but I'm going to support my people and I'm here to talk about it. Like, I'll talk about anything that you want to talk about. But what I won't entertain is kind of like one side versus the other side. Right.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm not really here for that, even though, politics can get ugly and every now and then my opinions come out because I can't hold them in. But at the same time, I'm always going to love other human beings and see their infinite potential. And it's important to me that, I cultivate a community that does the same.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Can we get that on? I always say in my podcast, I swear there's always a bumper sticker moment, but I want that to be on bumper stickers is like, I will always see the infinite potential in other human beings.
Yes.
Oh, wow. What a game changer that is. Talk about a movement. Oh my gosh. What a world this would be if we all lived our lives that way. That's really beautiful.
I mean, and that just trickled straight down, from my coach. And that is like, he's like, that's a non-negotiable. Like, if you're coaching for this team, you have to see infinite potential in every single human being. And so easy for us to do because that's what he does. Like, you know what I mean? To be able to coach every single human being the same and be completely detached from like whether you believe their mission can work or not. Like, that's not the point, like, that's not what great coaches are here for. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I don't know. I just saw the world shifting as you were talking. And I don't mean to be, again, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I think every single person who can have that experience, or someone else experiencing them that way, right? Seeing the infinite potential in each other, like just having that experience. There's so many moments throughout the day where we feel invisible or we don't know what we're doing or we feel confused. So to have someone in your corner who sees infinite possibilities in you, God, what an experience that is. And it brings down the heat, the temperature of like, that can happen in moments like this. And I think, as you know, that's my take when things happen is how are we taking care of you? Right? Because when the world falls apart, we need you. We don't need posts. We don't need we need you and your brain and your talents and your love and your expertise. And I think we could get super aligned on that. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I see
absolutely.
Some fun things coming up there, Elizabeth. That could be so cool,
Let's do it. Yes. I'm here for all of it. Yeah. That's so important though. It's like, how are we keeping ourselves grounded and mentally healthy during times like this so that we can show up and be that for other people. Cause I mean, I know that's what gets me out of bed every morning, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not going to let them hold me down.
It's so important. It's so important that, well, it's kind of going back to being great at business too, right? Like, I think we both talk often about trusting intuition. Like you said, if you need to pull back, if you need to rest, that's what you do. Like, trust your intuition. And that you say that to your clients and group members as well. But I think that same idea goes into business, right? And our personal lives. Like, what do we need to stay as grounded as possible and to show up as beautifully as possible, both business and personal? I love it.
Yeah. And we really have to be able to identify the difference in like that intuition and inner knowing versus fear. Because what I will see happen, a lot of people will use intuition as a crutch. Well, intuitively, I think I just need to bump my webinar back 2 weeks. Like, I'm just not ready. You know, there's just something inside me that's telling me that this isn't the right time. And I'm like, okay, that could be true, but let's get really clear on like, you know, what are you afraid will happen if you do it right now? Like, it's just, there is a little bit of a line there that I try to help people navigate and help myself too. Sometimes is like, ooh, am I putting this off because there's like actually my inner knowing, or am I putting this off because I don't want to do it?
Wow. Right? Oh my gosh. The don't wannas compared to intuition. Yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah. And finding that fine line. And I think fear is one thing, but I think the other thing too is just pressure. Yeah. Right. Other people are doing it. Other people are posting this way. Other people are doing 15 webinars in 3 days or whatever it is, that we listen, pull back and go, yeah, is that going to work for what I'm doing? Versus I'm scared to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And asking like, is it going to feel good to have it done? Because if it's going to feel really good to have it done, then it's probably something that you really do want to do. Right.
That's
even
so
if you don't want to do it, you know, it's going to feel good to have done. So, you know, there's an opportunity for growth there. Right.
Oh, so good. So good. So if someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, community and leadership, Facebook groups, how do I get back in this? I think I'm starting to see a way. What is one thing? You guys, she didn't know I was going to ask her this. So sorry, Elizabeth, I'm putting you on the spot.
I love it. I love doing it.
One thing you wish people knew about the communities that you're helping people create? What's kind of like a misnomer about these communities that you would like to pop that bubble?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just how easy it can be. And people tend to go all in on their marketing when they're launching something. Oh, I'm going to have a pop-up Facebook group, or, you know, I'm just going to engage in my Facebook group when I'm launching something. But that nurture system that can take an hour a week, you're going to grow your newsletter list. Like, okay, cool. You can pay for ads, or you can just optimize your Facebook group and get free leads every week. It's up to you. But I mean, it really is like so easy. And I just like to like kind of debunk that like building a community is effort, you know, because it's really not. It's really not a lot of time. It's not a lot of energy. You can take a week off and your group's not going to like die or go to sleep. I mean, it's all fine. It's all fine. It's just another point in your marketing ecosystem. And I had a friend who resisted forever because she's like the Instagram queen. Like, she has her marketing. She's good to go. She finally was like, Liz, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a Facebook group. And she, every single day, she's like, I'm so glad I did that, because it's just another place that I can help people, another place that I can remind them of my offer, another place that I can remind them that I'm doing a webinar. And it's like, it's not her end all be all strategy, but she's so grateful to have it in her marketing repertoire. She's like, I don't know why I waited so long. Like,
that's so great. Okay. So maybe go sooner than you think. Go do it. And also, it's not as hard as we think.
Yes.
And I love how you frame it, that in an hour a week. I mean, oh my gosh, don't we like go through Spotify ads more than an hour a week? Most of us, like, if we're honest, right? Like, that's not that much time to create a community and to help more people. I love it.
Yeah. And I mean, I have documented my weeks and how much time I spend thinking about it, touching it, writing a new newsletter. And it is an hour a week. It truly is. I would give yourself an hour to set it up, or if you haven't touched your Facebook group in a while, to optimize it, because you want to think strategically about the title, the description, the onboarding process. You know, I have a whole system there, but I mean, for the most part, it's like, once it's up and going, like, it's just an hour a week. It's great.
So good. So good. Oh, that's so helpful. And I think it is, I've been hearing a lot out there in the world, this feeling of like, I can't reach people anymore because social media got so loud. So I think the idea that actually, but you don't have to play in that to create community. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's going
And
to be super helpful for people.
40% of people in your Facebook group are going to see your stuff. Now that's a statistic that I pulled from my own data, from my students, from the clients that I've helped. But everyone that I've helped set up this Facebook group and email newsletter system, it's 40%, 40 to 60% engagement in their community, which means if you have 100 members, 40% are going to see your stuff.
Wow.
And then the email newsletter rates are also like super healthy, between 20 to 60%, depending on how big that segment is.
Wow.
And yeah, because they play on each other. Like they read the newsletter and it says, oh, hey, go check out this post. Susie asked a great question. Now they're clicking back into the group. They play on each other. And it really, I mean, I have the data behind it to show that this will actually improve. And Instagram experts will tell you that only 2% of your following are seeing your stuff.
That's correct.
So even though my Facebook group is significantly smaller than my Instagram following, the exact same number of people close to it are seeing my stuff, just because it's such a higher percentage in the group. Yeah.
Oh, I love data. God bless data, right? Like anytime a business owner's like, data.
Yes.
It just, there it is. Yeah. Black and white. So great.
Yeah.
And when we combine that data, like that's really incredible information to have. And you put your heart into that, you put your expertise into that, you're going to cause really cool results. So good. So good.
But I mean, on a business building level, it's like everything I'm doing can be taught by somebody else, which is also the beautiful thing about like when you, going back to the beginning of the episode, when you kind of figure out why you're on the planet, like what's your why, and then what are your money-making things? If you can get your money-making things to be systematized and repeatable so that you can train somebody else to do it. Like my team member, Amanda, can run these Facebook group in an hour sessions. Like that's how you build a business that's like, you know, bigger than you. Because one day I would like to think that my business can run without me and I can pass it down to my kids or sell it. But if we are the only person that can do things in our business, then it's actually worth zero, right? Because if something happens to us, nobody else can do anything. Yeah.
It's so true. And we talk about that all the time with health, right? Like if you don't feel good, what's going to happen to your business? What are your backup plans? Where's your systems? What are we going to do? But then scaling to the point of disappearing. I had a coach once he was so funny. He'd be like, I don't know if you noticed, my name's not anywhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's really not. I was like, how did he do that? Because you got the Tony Robbins of the world, right? And all these things. And he was like, my name's not anywhere. I was like, wow, what an interesting strategy. So I love what you're saying there, though, for people who really want to just replicate what they're doing out there in the world and help it get so big. Yeah. Teaching other people to do what you do is so important. Love it.
Yeah. And that solved my, like, I need to get bored or I'm bored and always want to create problem, because like now I can kind of still build this machine over here and have my team like deliver it, because it's just a step-by-step system. There's no like, you know, magic to it, but I'm super passionate about creating it. But then I can do things like this that I feel like do need my energetic signature, you know, and just continue to create and up level and allow myself to have that creativity that we talked about earlier, to be the pivoter. I can always pivot if I want to, because otherwise I'm in trouble.
The pivoter. Yeah. No, but that's so good, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. There's so many great insights here, and I'm so grateful that you're just being so open and honest on what, again, back to abundance, right? Like what an abundant way to view the world as well. Is like, if I get to teach other people to do this, it all gets bigger, and removing any, but it's got to be me. I hear that so often. It's got to be me. It's got to be me. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be okay if there's other people. So good. So good. So if someone's listening right now, Elizabeth, and they're like, I need me some more, where should they go?
Yeah.
Where can they find out more about you?
You can find my group on Facebook by just searching the Community Builder. That's my group about groups, and it's kind of connected to my freebie. You can go to my website and grab my freebie at elizabethhenson.co. I'm on Instagram at elizabeth.henson. I'm very easy to find. And then I have a podcast called the Messy Success Podcast, which Sarah will be on, I think, next week or week after.
So exciting.
And that's like my little behind the scenes passion project. I love it. The Messy Success Podcast is my fave.
Our podcast is just the best. I love having a podcast so much.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of just like vomit my heart out on there. It's fine. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't go like on social media and like emote all over the place. Like, but if you go on my podcast, like you're going to hear Anthony's birth story. You're going to hear about our miscarriage. You're going to hear about collegiate field hockey. Like,
oh, wow.
Because it's all part of my story that I do think is worth sharing, but it's also like, that's not like my business builder, right? Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, well, I found her because she went through this hard thing. But like, that doesn't really have anything to do with what she's like on. I don't know. It's just like, it never really felt right to share my kids as like part of like building my business. But the podcast feels like this safe place where I can be a little bit more emotional. You're connecting with people.
Yeah. I mean, I think I love podcasts, obviously, but I think it's just such an intimate space. I mean, there have been times I've recorded in hotel rooms. I've recorded outside my dad's hospital room. I've recorded, like, you name it, I've been there to record. And I think there's something to that that's real time, but it's not social media. And there's no algorithm deciding whether or not you'll see a podcast. If you've subscribed, you see it. And I think there's a lot of power in that as well. So Absolutely. I love your podcast, by the way. We will make sure to link to her podcast in the show notes or underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube. Elizabeth, thank you so much for spending time with the girlfriends today. I really appreciate your insights into groups, especially at a time when I know so many of us, raising hand guilty, have serious eye rolls to anything on social media. So I really, really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. I'm not even sure I've opened social media this week. I've been so bad, but it's okay. Like we don't need it. We all need
a break. Yeah. Especially when the world seems to have lost its mind. So thank you. Thank you also for leading the way there and being a role model there as well. We don't have to be on all the time. Love it.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys.